It's time for ROTD Weekend. I came out of last weekend feeling ready. I thought I had this week under control. Marty and I had our final improv performance. We finished. We have graduated from the SAC Comedy Lab improv program, finished the advanced class and had our performance. So I knew I had that, and I had to get ready for the trip to Mexico, which I am on as you are listening to this. I'm recording before I leave on the day that I leave. And yeah, so I thought everything was under control. And then you know what? The week just slapped me hard, and I feel like I've just been behind. I am breathing and smiling through it, though. You know, this might be my last spring break trip with both of my kids. As you know, Jeremy is graduating high school and he'll be heading off to college, and it might be the case that his spring break won't line up with Marty's and Jamie's, which have always lined up really nicely. You know, Marty teaches at the university, and his spring break is always lined up with my kids' spring break, which has been kind of miraculous. But anyhow, that might not happen in the future. And so I want to just breathe, relax, and go into this. I think I'm telling it to you to convince myself that it's possible. But you know, it's really true. I think about this a lot. My very, very first episode of a podcast that I ever did was for, you remember probably way back in the day, I had a podcast called TMI. It was the Time Management Insider, and I talked a lot about meal planning and like parenting stuff and all of that. And the very first episode was about Parkinson's Law. Parkinson's Law is this thing that says that anything you're trying to do will take up as much time as you give it. And I guess that's kind of what I've been doing with this week, and what I'm telling myself now as I, try to breathe and decompress and get ready to actually go relax on this vacation, is that everything will get done in the time I give it. And so to that point, I'm recording this podcast now, and I haven't packed yet. We're leaving in a few hours. I haven't packed because I know that if I give myself, all day, like if I start packing at 10 o'clock in the morning and we're leaving at 6 p.m., I will still be packing at 6 p.m. Whereas if I start at 4 p.m., I will finish at 6 p.m. So I think I'm feeling a little bit like rushed and panicked because I've left things to the end, but I have to remind myself that I left them to the end on purpose so that I wouldn't let them take over everything else. And so I am recording this and doing this, and I have not even taken out my suitcase yet. Now you know I am going to apply that to other tasks for you, ideas to think about when it comes to meal planning, when it comes to cooking dinner, when it comes to grocery shopping. Giving yourself a time limit really, really works. If you say, I'm going to spend 10 minutes making my meal plan for this week, and you set a little timer for yourself, you will do it in 10 minutes, right? Whereas if you're just kind of like sitting there with your pen and your paper and thinking about it and searching for recipes and anything like that, you can take hours doing it. Grocery shopping too. I often will go to the grocery store on the way to something else I need to be at. Like, well, it used to be picking up my kids, and it will be again next year when Jeremy's not here. He's been driving them both to school and back for the last little while since he got his driver's license. But I am losing that driver when he goes off to college, and I'll be doing the driving again. And planning to grocery shop on my way to pick them up from school means that I don't have that much time, and so I spend less time there. I do love spending time in the grocery store, seeing new products, browsing, and so if I give myself that time, if I go, say, after dropping her off at home, I head back to the grocery store, I will spend way longer than I planned because I have that time. Sometimes it's nice, sometimes that's relaxing, but when things are busy, giving yourself a little time limit really helps. Now, I'm going to tell you that for the middle part of this show today, I have just been talking through those myself, but instead I went and found something that I think is very useful to you. It is a conversation that I had a little over a year ago with Sena Wheeler from Sena Seas about what fish and seafood is in season right now. So it's actually in March right now what you should be looking for. So that is a great and useful conversation. That's coming up next. And then I'm going to remind you anyhow about the live events that Marty and I have coming up and that I have coming up. And the reason that I'm kind of laughing is because I make a point in our cooking show to not rush. I say, we're going to do 3 dinners in an hour, but I'm not rushing around. I rushed around in kitchens in my 30s. I rushed around in kitchens in my 40s. I am turning 50 this year, and I am going to move slowly in that kitchen. So as much as I'm saying, give yourself a time limit, Parkinson's law applies, all of that, you also need to just breathe. And I am here to remind you of that and to remind myself of that. But definitely I will relax on the airplane and get some time to read and sit on the beach. We're meeting up with my parents in Mexico, spend time with them and with my kids. I actually got some games for us to play, some Uno, some Yahtzee. Ramoli is a game I used to play with my parents when I was younger that my kids have never played before. I got a little bored for that. So we're going to do those things in the condo in the evenings and spend most of the time relaxing. So I applied Parkinson's law a lot this week. I was busier than I wanted to and set time limits and rushed. But there's light at the end of the tunnel and I will relax soon. I hope that whichever of those applies to you right now, whether you need time limits to get things done more quickly or you need to relax and move more slowly, I hope that you have gotten that permission from me or at least been inspired to go with either of those two sides of that coin, right? Okay, so I am now going to play this conversation about seafood seasons between me and Sena Wheeler. Let's listen. Hi, Sena. Welcome back.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I am excited to be talking with you for maybe a weird reason. So it is not salmon season now, and I want to know, what fish season is it, and what should I be looking for right now?
That's a really good question. We get that a lot because we sell fish year round. But of course, fish has seasons like fruits and vegetables. It's hard for people to imagine sometimes because, they're under the water. You can't see them. And why do they have seasons? So for salmon, we catch salmon when it's spawning. So it's very much about when it's returning to the river. Mm-hmm. So salmon are born in river. They leave that river. They go out into the ocean. They feed themselves, get themselves fat, full of omega-3s and amazing good stuff, which is great. Nice wild diet. No inputs. Nobody's doing anything. And then they come back about 4 years later. So there could be 4 or 5 years. And then when they spawn, it's incredible because, we don't know exactly what it is. The smell, they come back to their very same river. That's why they are genetically different when they come from different rivers. So Copper River salmon were born there. They come back. They're genetically different, have higher omega-3s than other salmon. And they will kind of mill around in the ocean. And then it's like, when there's some sort of green light, they start going up the river. So the seasons are about that. So the Copper River spawn first. They're the first on the planet in the spring to return and spawn. And so we have a really, really high degree of regulations around that, when they're going to come, when we can start fishing, and they are counting fish with fish counters upriver. So, we're not catching fish commercially until there's like 1 million fish go through or whatever. They're hitting their targets for sustainability. So it's very much around the timing of the fish. We're waiting for them to tell us now. That's how salmon works. And then whitefish like halibut, black cod, lingcod, rockfish, they're in the ocean. They're in the deep waters of the ocean. Mm-hmm. And so, but there's still a season for regulatory purposes. And the season for them is spring to fall. Okay. And it's not safe in the winter time to be out there, and it doesn't really make sense, and it's closed off anyways. And so the whitefish has a much longer season. So you'll see from springtime to fall, and the fishermen, they have a quota system. So the fisherman knows they're allowed to catch X amount based on how many are out there. So it's like a pie. It's shrinking and growing based on the previous catch. Mm-hmm. And so each fisherman, they know their slice of the pie, how much that's going to be prior, and they can catch it when they want to. And that's really That's a quota system has changed over the years since my dad fished and my grandfather, but it's a safer system for the fishermen because they don't have to go out if it's, say, blowing a gale.
Right.
There's not these openings, okay, fish today. They can go out whenever. So from spring to fall, you're seeing fresh fish in the stores. And in the winter, I'm talking Alaskan fish. There might be other seasons elsewhere, but in the winter, it's closed.
Yeah. Well, that makes so. There's so many things in there that I hadn't realized. So the salmon season is partly because that's when the salmon's going to be most nutritious, but it's also because it's being monitored in a certain way.
Yes.
And is anybody even allowed to go out into the ocean and fish for salmon, or would they just not be as good then? Like, what is the?
So we're actually, if you imagine, okay, I know people are imagining like a regular river, right? The mouth of the Copper River is a delta 300 miles wide.
Oh, wow.
So it's these fingers and things, and it's huge. So we're actually catching in the ocean at the delta. So we're not in the river, but so we're in the ocean, but the fish are coming and gathering. Then I think that's a really good question. They're just so spread out that there would be no, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Find them anyways.
No, so really what you're saying is the reason that you are catching them when you do and where you do is for the same reason that the bears are catching them where they do and when they do, because there's a lot of them, right?
They're gathered. Yeah. And then they have a tight spawning cycle, and then they're going to be blush and over. And so then it's over. And when the run starts, sometimes it's like a brick wall of fish coming. And when it's over, it's over. They're done coming. So it's very much about the fish and how they want to do it.
Yeah.
Which has to do with the temperatures of the water, how much melt, how much snow, how much ice, a lot of variables.
So fascinating. And then for the whitefish, so then that is about, like, the reason that there are seasons is because we are kind of controlling them. It's not about when they're healthiest, or it's really so that we as
more
humans
about regulation.
Regulations.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we are in no person's land for the fish from Alaska right now. What should we be looking for if we want to find Alaskan fish right now?
So right now, all wild Alaskan fish is going to be frozen. And this gets us to the kind of the fresh versus frozen argument. And, being in this business, I have a degree in food science. I've studied fish and frozen and freshness. And when we got into this business, it's like, well, what's the best? And that's a big argument. And so I like to say, if you live by the ocean and you see the boats, fresh is best if you're getting it straight off the boat. But if not, if you live inland or it's off season, frozen can be very premium. So what we do during the season, we're catching all the fish, the salmon, coming in at once. We have a facility up in Alaska, right in Cordova, and we are cutting and freezing, blast freezing immediately, and vacuum sealing and packaging. And so it basically locks in the freshness. And with our packaging, we can get premium quality for a full calendar year since it's put in the freezer, which is really huge because being able to preserve the freshness of the fish like that is a big deal just for the quality, the nutritional value, and just the taste and flavor. So we have a lot of people, well, my dad would be one. We send we send fish to my parents, and, he's fished his whole life. And he's like, I can't believe your fish in February and April is tasting so fresh. So that's a really big deal. And frozen can be done right. This whole fresh thing, like I said, if you're close to the ocean, great. But if not, you might be at the grocery store. Watch close this time of year. If it looks fresh and the sign says fresh, what they mean is refreshed. So it might have been frozen and they defrosted it for you, which I'm like, I'd rather defrost it myself on my own timeline, not have it sitting in the case defrosted. And then there's farmed, which is totally different, no seasons.
So, okay, if it says fresh, never frozen, then it's never been frozen. But then I find myself wondering, like, when was that caught? And, like, is that an issue? Like, is it possible that it was caught
several days ago and like the word fresh is kind of a misnomer at this point? Or or is it probably still good? Or you think I'm better off just going with the frozen if
That's the big question. I have a blog post where I talk about like the 5 definitions of fresh, depending on who you ask. So to me, the term fresh is very misleading. I actually don't even use it on our website. I mean, people call our fish the freshest fish they've ever had. That's great. But to me, that term is so misleading because it can mean refreshed. It can be sitting in a grocery store case. It's called fresh, but you don't know how many days. I mean, as soon as that fish is pulled out of the water, the time temperature is ticking. And if it's fresh, it has to be kept chilled all the time. And every single day, even if it's kept at properly chilled temperatures, every single day, the quality is declining. So you just really don't know how long it's been fresh sitting there. So it's very interesting. And most frozen is frozen immediately. So it can, in some ways, be fresher than fresh.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so I have 2 questions about the frozen fish. I know that you are an expert in omega-3s as part of your master's degree in nutrition. Is anything about the health of the fish changed in freezing? You know how sometimes, like, if you boil certain things, it removes the nutrients, or freeze certain things. Does anything there reduce or change when we freeze fish?
So the nutritional value is all still there. It's very much frozen in time, so you're not degrading, which I appreciate. And this is interesting. Whole another side note. In order to eat, it's safer if it's been frozen. So any potential parasites have been frozen. So in fact, and this is a huge misnomer, people that are eating sushi, they're thinking I'm eating the freshest fish. But please do not. You never eat sushi non-frozen. So salmon must be frozen to eat as sushi. And it's the freezing process that kills the parasites. So frozen fish, it's frozen to a certain time and temperature long enough to kill parasites. So the premium frozen quality fish is what makes proper sushi. That makes sense.
Yes, no, and I don't really want to tell this whole story because it will make people unhappy, but I was in Spain last year and we all got food poisoning, and we're pretty sure that it was, what are the little fish that, and they freeze them before serving them? It was anchovies, and I think I don't know if they serve them raw or what the deal was, but we only get them like canned here usually. And we had them, and then I think that's what had our food poisoning happen. So I'm now like super like, I'm not having that unless I know for sure that they froze it. If I go back to Spain, I need to make sure,
Yes, it has to be frozen. I mean, I've heard from people, they're so excited. They go out, they're in Alaska, they're catching fish, they're eating it, fresh on the boat, raw, and that's not at all. You need to freeze it for, depending on how cold your freezer is, the colder it is, the less time. But a non-commercial freezer, it needs to be, I don't have it in front of me, but it's several days. We have a commercial freezer that gets it down to proper temperatures so you can get there faster. But it's important, and it's a huge misnomer out there.
Yeah, no, I had no idea. It makes perfect sense now that I think about it. But yeah, no, I had no idea. That's fascinating. The other thing I want to know is when it comes to cooking the frozen fish, I know I've talked with my audience, they've heard this way too many times, about cooking fish straight from frozen. I know that's an option. And then there's different thawing options. What has been your experience as the best way? So you get it frozen. If it's from you guys, it's coming in the mail, frozen and amazing. Then what should we be doing?
So first off, I keep it in the freezer until I'm ready to eat it. And even I don't even myself, I don't even like to defrost it overnight because I feel like all the time in the refrigerator, even if it's one day, is degrading quality. It always is. And so what I like to do is pull it out. As I'm starting dinner, I'm going to make the rice and prep the veggies. The first thing I do is just put it in a pot of cold water. So I'm just defrosting it sort of first thing. And because our portions are individually vacuum sealed, I count heads. Let's see how many. kids are home tonight, grab one for each person, put it in the water, and they defrost so fast. And then I rinse, set it out, pat it dry, salt it. And that's just kind of my first step. But I like to defrost right before eating personally, although you can cook frozen and there are a lot of recipes out there. And it's a lot like people do that with steak too. And you're going to get more of that cooked outside and, less cooked inside.
Mhm.
And so I know it's totally possible. And I know I've done it, but I usually do defrost.
And so you do it right before, it's still in the packages that they came in. So they're
Mhm.
sealed in there in the cold water. And yeah, depending on how much water and how many portions, because that'll cool the water down so fast, all the icy portions. But it's like 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, like the bigger the pot, the better.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then letting it kind of overflow with cold water, but about 30 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, do you leave the tap running?
Just depending if I'm close by, but I try to get it kind of a little bit overflowy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice
And then I
full.
might, every time I walk by, put a little fresh
Yeah.
in.
Well, yeah, because the fish is cooling down the water and you want cold water, but not necessarily icy cold because that'll delay
Right.
the thawing, right? And then open them up and pat them dry. That's super important, right?
So I open it and rinse it. So that's kind of also, it's kind of a fish or, I don't know. I don't rinse my beef, but
Mhm.
I rinse it under cold water and then pat it dry. So it's nice to get that quick rinse and then pat it dry.
And then, you know what? We could maybe transition here. Oh, wait, I wanted to ask you, I saw on your website, you have this time of year, like frozen boxes people can get. Is that how that works?
Yeah, so we have everything on our site. You can buy one time or subscription, or we have these really cool boxes. This is great this time of year. I'm always talking about it because it's called our seasonal variety. And basically, it's like we know fish and we know what's in season and we know what we have. So every year one year we have more of this and then more of that, less of this. There's always something we're low on and something we're big on because we're catching, it's wild. You don't get to order it up. We get what we get. And so we have this seasonal variety subscription that allows us to kind of put in what we have during the different seasons. And it allows our customers to not worry about it. In the spring, you're going to get Copper River sockeye because that's what we're catching. And that's what's best right now. In the fall, you'll get Copper River coho. Same with the whitefish. We're going to do it as the abundance. And so it really allows us to be more, sustainably minded using what we have. And it allows our customers to not have to worry about the seasonality of the fish. So that one's a real win-win.
No, I love that. You don't have to think about it. It just comes and it is exactly the right fish for that month.
Right. And we're thinking about it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Okay. So I know you've brought a recipe to tell me about. I'm super curious. What are you talking us through today?
So we've been talking a lot about halibut cheeks in our world because, like I said, there's always something you have a lot of and something you don't have a lot of, and we're low on halibut portions. So I've been talking to our customers about halibut cheeks. And yes, it's what you think it is. It's actually cut from the cheek, which, between the jaw and the collarbone of the fish.
Mm-hmm.
And so halibut cheeks are fairly rare. I find that people with a fishing history or that catch fish or something, they've heard of them. It's a real delicacy, but it's cut out of the fish. And if you imagine these fish, halibut can be a couple 100 pounds. You get 2 little cheeks for several 100 pounds. So that makes them fairly rare. So not everybody's had them. Plus there's unfortunately, there's bigger processors that aren't going to take the time to cut these little cheeks out and combine them. So we cut them out. We utilize the whole fish, and then we package them into a 1 pound package. And so they're almost like scallops. The cheeks have the same flavor as halibut, like that really nice, mild, almost sweet flavor. But the cheeks themselves are striated like a scallop. So it's a different texture, almost like a chicken breast. So same flavor, different texture, and they're really good. People love them, but also it's like if they're rare and you don't get them a lot, then okay, how do I cook it?
Yes, so I grew up. The name of the fish where I'm from, central Canada, is pickerel, but they call it something different in the States, and I'm blanking. Maybe it's a jackfish, but we used to do the cheeks from that, and they are so different texture, like you said, and delicate. like
Mhm.
just beautiful light. But I don't know if I've ever had halibut cheeks. Now I'm excited. And you sell them, you can buy them from you, like on the website?
Yeah, we have them just
Oh.
packaged in a 1 pound package of halibut cheeks, and 1 pound is perfect. It's like it fits in the pan, you just
Mhm.
lay them in the pan. So what I found, and I'm just gonna give you guys the secret hot tip: all shrimp recipes work for
Oh my
halibut
goodness.
cheeks.
Because similar cooking time because they're small.
Like, yes, like 3 minutes on each side, quick saute. And a lot of shrimp recipes, I mean, you got the seasoning, you throw them in the pan, but you're kind of doing, you do it, you flip it, they're done. They cook very fast. So
Mhm.
it's really similar. I've been playing around and just like, I've been eating a lot of cheeks because we eat what we have in abundance.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love it. So if I get your monthly box, I'm having for dinner the same thing that you guys are having for dinner.
Everybody's having halibut cheeks this month.
Oh, that's so good.
Including me, which is fun because then I'm working on the recipes right alongside, and,
Mhm.
and sharing about it. So, I was going to walk you through just a quick halibut cheek
Yeah,
recipe.
sounds great.
And really, you do it just like I said, like you're doing cooking. If you imagine sauteing shrimp, that's really what we're going to do. So,
Mhm.
we're going to defrost them, pull them out of the package. I put it on a plate, pat with paper towels. So,
Mhm.
you want to get it all the way dry. And then I always, at that step, get it dry and then I salt whatever fish I'm working with,
Mhm.
shrimp or anything. So I would go ahead and season it with some salt, garlic salt, really whatever you want. You're not going to toss the cheeks because they're delicate. So
Okay.
really, you're going to just do one side and then flip them
Okay.
and salt the other side.
Okay.
There's no top or bottom. Get both sides going. So we got the cheeks sitting there, nicely salted. And then I just use my cast iron pan. You could use a nonstick pan. Butter. I mean, I'm curious what you think. Yeah, lately I've been doing the butter olive oil combo.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
do like 2 tablespoons butter, 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Do you ever do that mix?
Well, I do olive oil sometimes or a different kind of oil. It does what it helps not have the butter burn, right? Is that why you're
Yeah.
doing it? You get the buttery flavor, but if you just put the butter in there at the high temperature, it starts to turn brown and I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you get beautiful
Yeah.
brown butter, but sometimes you get not.
Sometimes you get over beautiful brown butter.
So yeah, you know what that my Ukrainian grandmother, my baba, whenever she cooked anything, it was like canola or vegetable oil. They didn't use olive oil back then, but where I was, so like a swirl of oil and then 2 pats of butter, like every time she was cooking
Okay.
anything, always.
That my dad started doing it and we always kind of share fish recipes and I'm going to try that, but it kind of like flavors, everything tastes buttery, but you get the higher smoke point of the oil.
Yeah,
So,
and I guess
um
health benefits too if you're using something nutritious like
right.
olive oil. So that's
Right.
great.
So then I'm going to put in some fresh garlic and then throw the cheeks in the pan. So they are flat. They look like a scallop that's been flattened.
How big are they around, like diameter? Like
Because halibut vary very much in size,
right.
they can be, let's see, they can sometimes be 3 inches.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
they can be fairly big. It depends on the size of the fish. So I would say 2 to 4 inches
Okay.
in diameter. And they'll be variable in the package because they come from different fish.
Right. But they're
Um,
almost the same thickness, all of them, right? Like that, they don't get like super hugely thicker even when they get bigger, right?
yeah, they're like a little pancake and they're always a little bit thicker in the middle,
Hmm.
but they don't get so thick that it like changes the cooking time.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Okay. So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
oil, butter, garlic, and in go the cheeks, kind of like try to not overlap them if possible. Is that, yeah.
Yeah. Kind of leaving space and you want to get that nice brown. And so that's going to be 3 minutes aside on the cheeks. Just like even shrimp. I mean, you think you want to just stir them, but really you want to lay them flat and then flip each one.
Hmm.
And so the same thing, about 3 minutes in, we're going to flip each one. At this point, sometimes I'm putting a little fresh lemon, just squeezing it on top.
I want to ask you, so they're not flaky like the halibut fish, right? So like when you go to flip them, are you worrying about them breaking, like flaking apart? Or can I go with a pair of tongs or will that just break it? Or am I using a lifter?
They break differently. So
Oh,
if they break, it's like it's not flaking. It's like along the striation. So it would be like you might lose a third. or something like that. And so I think that I have flipped with tongs, but you don't want to be like, really rough with them. They will come apart. Although I've done them in like pasta dishes where you do have it just like I stir it and it comes apart. And so that's a whole nother thing.
Right.
So it's not the worst, but yeah, you want to be a little bit gentle on the flip, either tongs or a spatula.
Yeah, and go under and flip. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so you're just doing another 3 minutes. You're just getting a nice color. We've got the lemon on there and we're good to go. I mean, you put it on a plate and they're ready to eat immediately. And you'll taste it and then just be like, you know what? I'm just going to eat this right now.
I love that. No, and it sounds like a great recipe for this sort of thing. Like you can get if you're having like rice or salad or whatever else is all set. Everybody's almost in the kitchen already and you just put those on and cook them. It's one of my favorite things about like shrimp too. It's that everything else can be ready and then it's last minute and they end up being, well, really the best part. And so you treat them like the best part too. I love it.
Right. Yeah. And then if you want, you can deglaze the pan with some, white wine and make a little sauce. The last time I did it, I tried a little half and half, and I think it was, I had the lemon in there, so it curdled a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but you can play with the sauce, if you want, and do a little something. Maybe if I was going to do it again, I would lemon them on the plate if I wanted to do the creamy sauce.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So I'm still working on my creamy sauce.
There you go. Yeah, that would work. I think it would work. Yeah.
So I think that then you could just do squeeze the lemon when it's on the plate, and then you got the nice creamy sauce. I mean, with or without it, it's good.
Oh, I love this. Thank you so much, Sena. Can you let people know the best place for them to find you if they want to find out more about Alaskan seafood, more about your different boxes, all of that? Where should they go?
Yeah, go to our website, senasea.com, senasea.com, and definitely jump on our email list. I think you scroll all the way to the bottom and you jump on and we do some giveaways. And I have a cookbook, with our favorite ways to cook each type of fish. So you can get started right away. We're all about, helping people just feel comfortable with cooking fish, making it easy, and just all kinds of information. So I do love people on the list because that's where I put a lot of my time and energy and a lot of communication. And then we have a new thing on the site where we also have Sena's recommendations for a subscription box. And so if you click the link, it's going to ask you a little bit about like, what kind of fish do you like, or how often do you eat fish or want to, and what's the size of your family? And then it's going to recommend a subscription box for you, which is pretty cool. That's one of the questions I get a lot. So
Yeah, no, I love that. And I'll just say, like, sincerely, honestly, to everybody listening, like, we don't work together in any way. I've just had you on because I loved talking with you last time as well. But what I want to say is I've been on your mailing list ever since back then. And it's one that I enjoy getting. There is great information. And I know that you're a business and you're selling, but I don't feel like I'm being sold to. I feel like I'm being educated and I'm excited and I'm learning. So if you're wondering if you should sign up for it, go and sign up. It's a great mailing list.
Oh, I love that. And our people are the best. Oh, we have the best group of people. And I just feel like, people respond and they get a little slice of the fishing lifestyle too.
Yeah, so great. Thank you so much, Sena.
Thank you.
Such great information from Sena. I actually should reconnect with her. I always enjoy our conversations so much. Make sure you are following her on Instagram. It is SenaC_seafoods. I will put the link in the show notes for this podcast episode as well. And check them out online. Maybe order some of that fish. Those halibut cheeks sound so amazing. Okay, so this is the part of the show where I often tell you what I am cooking this week, but I am still planning to leave for Mexico. I have not left yet as I'm recording this, so I don't quite know. What I do know is that I do have a couple of big cooking days when I get back. One is we're just doing videos of some of the small batch, small household recipes for two. We're filming a bunch of videos for those to use on social media and on the Cook for Two membership. So I know I'm doing that which reminds me that in the first part of the show, I said something about reminding you about when our upcoming live online events are happening, and I didn't. I started talking about something else instead. Me and my tangents. So I'll remind you now. So we have the public events, the cooking show that Marty and I are doing, the live cooking show. There is one on Sunday, March 29th at 6 p.m. Eastern, and there is another one on Monday, April 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern. And I'll put the link where you can find those in the show notes for this podcast episode, or go to thecookful.com/demo, and that will take you to the links for those shows. And then for the Cook for Two members, we are doing some Zoom calls. We have the Stir It Up with Christine's. So these are conversations. I present a little bit, some tips and ideas, and then we open it up and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. So there is one of those on March 24th at 7 p.m. That is a Tuesday, and one on Monday, April 13th at 7 p.m. So if you're a member, put those in your calendar and come and join me. And if you're not a member, what are you waiting for? Actually, we have a newly designed landing page for Cook for Two that has a lot more information about what is involved in our community. So if you haven't gone and looked in a while, now's a good time to check it out again. It's cookfor2.us, cookfor2.us. And yeah, so come join us for those events. They're really, really fun and interesting. Okay, and then I'm actually supposed to be telling you what I'm cooking this week. I do not know because I haven't even gone to Mexico yet. I do know that I have the cooking day with Jen coming over, and we're doing a bunch of the 4-2 recipes, which is going to be really fun. And then I have another cooking day coming up, and I want to focus on some summery recipes. You know, these are going to be going live probably in like May, June. So I'm thinking ahead towards that time. And I'm planning to do some brainstorming while I'm in Mexico, make some plans, and then when I get back, I'll do some testing, and then I'll have a big cooking day to finish that out. But I do not yet know what I'm going to be making. As to what is going live on the websites, or what has gone live on the websites, we do have new recipes this past week that you can definitely check out. On Cook the Story, we have a nacho cheese sauce. So this is like the nacho cheese that you get at like a stadium, or, you know, one of those kinds of things where it's like the chips with that like drizzled cheese. And I wanted to make a homemade version. Well, what actually happened was I tried making a homemade version. I just melted some Velveeta, and it wasn't quite right. It was close, but not exactly there. So then I started playing around with real cheese being added to it and discovered that it really does need like a roux and some milk. And this ends up being part real cheese, like shredded sharp cheddar cheese, and part Velveeta with the roux. And it's just a really good balance. The Velveeta is like salty and has that like shiny, glossy texture. And then the sharp cheddar has extra cheese flavor, you know? Really nice. And then on the Cookful, the new recipe we have is a ham salad. So this is like chicken salad, egg salad, tuna salad, but it's made with ham. Perfect if you have leftover ham from Easter, which is coming up soon. And I will say, I am so obsessed with this now. It has relish in it, and I'm not a huge fan of like the sweet green relish that's very common. And so I actually made it with the dill relish and fell in love. It is so tasty. It's chopped up ham, mayonnaise, and you can add various different things. Definitely do the dill relish. And it's just really good in sandwiches, on crackers, really tasty. I will say, traditionally, this was done in like a food processor or through a meat grinder. So it was more like I don't want to say paste, but I'm going to say paste. It was a little pastier. I didn't like the texture of that. So I did a finely chopped version instead. Really good. You're going to love that one. That is on the Cookful. Great for Easter leftover ham. Okay. Well, it is about that time where I'm going to start thinking about packing, because I'm giving myself a couple hours and there's really just a couple hours left. So I am going to sign off and head that way. Last bit of craziness to do. My kids are going to be coming home from school in a little bit and they need to pack also. So there will be an added layer of craziness at that point. But then we are heading onto our vacation and it's going to be so nice. I hope that you are having a lovely weekend, whether you are on vacation or not, that you're getting a break, having something delicious to eat. You deserve it. You're worth it. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, cookfor2.us, and this podcast recipe of the day. I hope you have a great weekend. Let's get cooking.